All right, let's take a look at where we left off last time. We actually have a character in here, this container character, and we created an idle animation as well as a walk. Now, what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take a look at another type of animation, which is bone-based. So imagine we took our paper cutout and we put some fasteners in each joint, and then we animated it with fasteners. And it gives you a little bit of a different type of animation where we'll take a look here. I select our other character here, this EJ rig, and it creates more of a mechanical bone based. So as we're moving these bones around, we can actually, let's kind of hit rotate here. We can rotate each one of these joints, and it's almost like a paper cutout with fasteners in it. So we can do something like an idle. Here's an example of a walk that I created using this. You can see it's a different style of animation, a little bit different than this guy. Now let's go to Photoshop and take a look at how we set up our project a little differently here. So here we are in Photoshop, and some of the things that I did that are a little different is if we go through our character, you can see that we hide his torso and we hide his pelvis here. I made the legs a little bit longer. They're broken up a little bit differently. Now with this, we don't have to actually cut this up in Photoshop. I also actually painted out like little nubs for the limbs where they're going to plug in. Anywhere that's overlapping, I added some additional, just a little bit of additional painting there. Now, when we go to save this in our project, we don't want to save it as a PSD file. We want to save it as a Paul Sam Boy PSB file. So I'm going to name this one as version 2 because I'm going to redo all the steps I did to make my demo in the beginning. And when I return to Unity now, also make sure, if you followed along with the previous tutorials, you'll have the 2D PSD importer in. And what you'll see is, now I'm going to go ahead and just create a prefab out of this character just so we have it. And I'll name this one because we've got some different parts in here that we're going to use later. So this is not something you're going to have to do. I'm just going to drop this in the prefab folder, and I'm going to delete this version. I'm also going to delete this. We can actually just drop this into. They're just variations. This EJ container one, we'll delete him too. So what we have is, let's find our version 2. So here's our Eric Junior Rig PSP version 2. And inside this EJ folder, I'm just going to create a new folder and just call this EJ underscore rig underscore version 2. The reason for this is where we're going to be storing all of our animations. So I'm going to move him in there, as well as our different EJ rig files. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to drop this into the scene, and I'm going to make sure this is all at 000. What I tend to do too is I'll just right click, create an empty game object, and I'll make sure this is zeroed out. And then this also becomes like my main mover for my character, so I'll drag and drop him underneath that. Now what I'd like to do is edit this, and you can see because it's a PSB file and we have that importer in, it already has created prefabs for each one of these joints as well as the different parts of our character. Now let's go inside of here and let's hit Open Sprite Editor. Now you'll notice it lays it out pretty neatly for us right off the bat. Like it kind of breaks it up, but we don't need this right now. What we're going to be doing is joint-based animation. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to my skinning editor, and I'm just going to hit revert here because I don't want to mess with it. Now, if we want to go to create bones here. Now think about this as you're going to create joints for your character's body, and these joints are essentially going to be what move or rotate it. Just like within your body you have joints, this is going to be joints that we're going to animate to move our character. Now, what I can do here is, what I normally do is I normally start with a joint and I call it the root joint. Now this is nothing revolutionary, whether you're doing 3D animation or 2D animation, people always create a root joint. So let's go ahead and just follow along as I click through this. I'm going to try to go as fast as possible because this sort of technical setup can be boring. And actually that's a benefit to you, because if you like and you don't mind tedious tasks, they actually end up paying more and they end up being the easiest way to break into the game industry or any other industry. So, as a technical artist, sometimes I'll write tools that actually automate this process, and it's easier than making art, believe it or not. All right, so anyway, in the center here, I'm going to just click in the center of his pelvis, and this is going to become my root joint. And I'm just going to go up to my character's belt buckle here, the center of their chest, and then right between the two arms, this is going to be my clavicle. And then here's my neck, and then I'm going to go up to the top of the head. I'm going to hit enter here because I'm going to hit escape because what I want is, if I go to preview pose here, I want everything to originate from this root or this main area. So I'm going to click on that and just name this root for now. And it's good to go in and just do SP1. And I'm actually not going to bore you by going in and naming all of these, but this would be SP1, SP2, this could be neck. And then this would be, don't ask me why I put a K in neck. There we go, neck. And then this would be head. Anyway, and so with that, I want to actually create joints originating out of here and to create into the arm. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create bones. And with that selected, you can see it automatically creates a section for me. So from the clavicle here to the edge of the arm there, and then somewhere in the middle here is going to be the elbow. And then, well, let's go a little bit further back. So here, about there for the elbow, give him some room for the wrist, and then his hands. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit escape, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Elbow, wrist, hands, and I'm going to hit escape. And then here, I'm going to just select this root bone, create the hip, give him a little bit of a bend in the knee. Down here by his pants cuff is where I want to bend the foot, so it's like where the ankle is. A little bit over here for the toe area, and then I'm going to hit escape. And then just do the same thing here, give him a little bit of bend in his knees, back here at the pants cuff, bottom of the foot here. I'm going to hit escape. So we essentially have now a joint chain for our character. Let's go ahead and go to auto geometry, and you'll see down here it's called, we have this weights checked on. Now, when you click auto geometry, it creates this mesh, and the mesh itself, we can adjust the outline detail, and that's going to snap a little bit closer and provide additional points for where our character will bend. So for example, you'll notice there's a mesh, there's a line here and here, but I put my bone there. Generally, you want a cut to be there. So if I hit generate, you'll notice that because I turned that auto detail up, it added a bunch of more cuts. And when I go to rotate this, you can see it bends where that geometry is. Now we can edit this. We can paint this so that it's a little bit cleaner. But what we have going on here is essentially really just we weighted, which means we took these joints and we added some sort of joint influence to this mesh. So these little edges and these vertices, you'll see there, we can do auto geometry. We can edit the geometry where these vertexes are. We can create a vertex here. But for now, let's go back to our auto geometry section. You can see that it automatically created this geometry, and by me turning it up, it gave us a little bit more influence here. Now, there's some things I don't want to happen. For example, like notice how I'm moving this leg, and I'm doing this by just clicking in here and rotating, and it's making his pelvis squish and deform. Now, the reason for that is the weighting is it's taking the weight, which means it's taking the amount of influence from this bone, and it's applying it to this pelvis, where there's a really easy way to fix that. If we go to bone influence here, and I double click, remember you have to double click this area here, you can see here that right off the bat, I only want it to be affected by this root. But if I click on root 10 here, which is this hip, and we should really go in and make sure that, like I said later, this would be the characters R_hip, right? And then when we go back to bone influence here, you can see it'll be in there. I want to go ahead and hit minus and remove that. Now you can see it's not influencing that area. Let's go ahead and hit and just rotate this as well. And you'll see this is doing the same thing. And that's root 14. So I'm going to go ahead and hit minus that. And then whatever this spine 10 is, I really don't want that to influence it either, because as you move your spine around, it doesn't really adjust your pelvis area. So I'm going to hit minus that too. And you could always go to restore pose and it'll reset it. And you want to just kind of go through and adjust all of this. Like for instance, this area here, Now I can't remove the influence, right, from this foot because it's one object, right? So if I remove the influence here from this mesh, the foot won't bend. Like I won't be able to bend it here. So what's nice about this is there is a weight brush here. And what I can do is I can click on this bone, and with that weight brush, I can really just go in there and just keep clicking. Or just like you hold on the left mouse button and just the faster you move, the more it'll adjust that weight. And I can really harden that cuff. And if you increase hardness, it'll increase the hardness of the brush. Oops. And see if we could take the size down a little bit. It's a little bit too big. Let's do 10. There we go. So you can see a little bit more hardness because I really don't want the pants to affect that as much. Now I can't do this as much in this area because we might have to, let's see if we can create a vertex. Let's see here. Let's see if we move this down a little bit. And now with this vertex here, I can just kind of really control that pants leg. So now when I go down to my weight brush here and I rotate this, you can see I'm getting a sharper or nicer cuff there. See that? And same thing here. If I start to play with this, let's move this up this way and I double click this area. I really don't want this pants leg to be skewed to that much. I want this joint. I want these vertices to be. I want it to maintain that shape, right? So you can see here. Make sure this is controlled by this foot here. Come on. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's go ahead and create a vertex there. And really let's move these around a little bit on this leg to make sure this is in there. And I'm going to just grab this vertex here, maybe apply another one there. So we're just kind of really just cleaning up this area like that, doing the best we can. Now when I expand my weight brush now and I go to move this leg, you can see it maintains that shape a lot better. See that? And you always want to kind of hit apply, restore previous, and then apply. Now it looks like there was some, yeah, so this root is affecting this, and I don't want that. So we can go to our bone influence here, and I can just go ahead and grab this root here, and I can just remove that. And then let's do the same thing here. Good. Doesn't look like there's any root movement. Let's restore pose. Same thing here. Looks pretty good. And I think you get the general idea. You might be going back and forth in between here, this screen. So generally, if you have a second monitor, you can have this on the second screen. But you'll go back and forth between this screen and your game view. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and close this. And what you'll notice is now our character has all of those joints automatically updated in our scene. And from here, I tend to grab it, and then I'll take away version 2, and I'll just name it like Eric Jr. Rig _ prefab. And then I'll just drag this into that version 2 folder here. And now I have the prefab. And the prefab is if I delete this from our scene, I can always just drag that back in, and then it'll remember the last setting. And let's see. So we have our arms, we have our legs, all this stuff looks pretty good. All right, so there's the next step in the process is as I'm animating this character and I move them around, I would like the legs to stick to the ground. Now this is called inverse kinematics. Now what that means is forward kinematics means from this joint here, right, as I move this around, you can see, and I rotate it, that all of the joints after it follow it. You'll have to forgive the constant, I'm not sure if the microphone's picking up ambulance noises. My office is next to an old folks home, and there's constant ambulances going in and out. Like, God help these elderly people, but that's what you're hearing in the background. So it's not a rough area that I'm in recording these. All right, so back to what I was talking about. Forward kinematics is this joint here will adjust all of the bones below it. Inverse kinematics means the inverse of that. That means I want to set this as my master bone and create a target joint there. And so when I move my root around, those feet lock into place. So how do we do that? Well, On my highest level, this prefab section, I'm going to add a component. It's going to be an IK. We want to do an IK lim solver IK 2D. And with that selected, you'll see that, you know what, I think, here, let me remove that for a second. I actually want to create a IK Manager 2D. Now, the reason I did this instead of that original, the other one, is because what I want is I want to set up 2 IK handles versus just one. So now what I can do is I can hit the plus here, and I can add a lim IK. Now, what this does is it sets us up as a sets us up to create a specific target, which would be this ankle here. And down here we have the solver 2D. But we have the ankle here, and we can set this ankle joint as a target point where when we move our hips down, it will set that as almost like the a stopping position for our movement. So let's take a look at that in action. So back to our new limb solver here. What I'm going to do is just position this a little bit below the foot. We're going to be moving this in a second. And for our target, I'm going to select root 12. And going down here, you can actually lock this to make it easier and just grab root 12, which is our ankle, and drop that in as the effector. And then we're going to hit create target. Now, below this new limb solver 2D, you're going to now find a target here. And as I move this around, you can see now our leg moves a little bit more naturally. So something like that. Okay. And you always want to animate your target, like when we do our walk cycles and stuff, we want to animate our target. Looks like we could have used another vertex there, but I think that's fine. All right, so let's do the same thing here. Let's go back all the way up here to our Eric Jr. prefab. And we want to, let's see. Here's our new limb solver and Eric Jr. prefab. Pretty good. All right, and let's unlock this. I was kind of confused for a moment why I wasn't seeing this. And let's hit plus again, and let's add another limb solver. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select this foot, and there is this one. So we're going to go ahead and just name this R underscore LS for rim solver. And then we'll name this one L underscore LS for limb solver so that we can know which one we're selecting here. And then underneath this one, we're going to do the same thing where I'm going to select the join here, which is root 16. And you really should go through and name these. I'm just, because of time, I want to make this tutorial as quick as possible. So you have this for class. We're going to select root 16, which really is our R ankle bone. And then I'm going to hit create target. And now underneath this, you can see we have an LLS target. We can just move that around. And then here's this one. And we're really just going to animate to these. Now you could, just like this, we'll do R. Oh, this should be left. Wait, this is our left leg. This one should be, yeah, that's right. Right limb solver. Okay, so this would be RLST. So right limb solver target. So we've got these two targets, and then this would be just do LLST. You have to forgive me, I'm extremely tired, but okay. So how are we going to do this? Well, let's just kind of set up our character. We'll straighten out the legs. We'll grab this target, move it over a little bit. We'll grab this target, move that over a little bit. And we'll just create our idle animation. So let's move our arms down. And for now, it can be pretty basic. We can just maybe do something where this goes up and down, kind of simulating, or we could scale that. It's all kind of connected. Well, okay, let's talk a little bit about animations, and then we'll do like a very basic idle. So here's our EJ Rig version 2. I'm going to right click, create an anims folder in here. And then with this character at the highest level selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit create here. And I'm going to back up to NPC, maybe art, NPC EJ. Oh yeah, these are all the different EJs. Here we go. And then we have this anims folder, and I'm just going to call this idle. And What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and hit this record button, and you can go in here, and it's a little bit of tweaking, but I'm going to hit E here. Let's say we want them to be about there. I'm going to click on this, hit Control C. Make sure that you have checked on show sample rate, and let's change our samples to 24 here so that it's more like 2D animation. I'm just going to scroll all the way to, let's see. Oh, we want to make this 24, not 247. There we go. I want to drag this all the way to frame 24 here. And then I'm going to paste it by hitting Control V. Let's make sure we click on this, hit Control C, and then when I hit Control V, notice it pastes wherever my cursor is here. So always be, or your timeline dash is. So you want to always make sure that you are aware that's at as you're animating. It can get kind of frustrating if you're pasting and stuff, and that thing is here, but your cursor is here, and you're assuming you're going to paste there. So here we are on 12. We have auto key on here. I'm going to rotate it a little bit, maybe move it up or move it down. Move this down just a dash. Come on. Make sure to click that little dot, and you can hit W here. Just kind of move that down. Oh, shoot. See, I'm not even on 12, and I'm making the same mistake I made last time. There we go. So let's go ahead and hit Control C here. Let's make sure that's looped with my thing here. And now I'm going to press play. You can see we got a little bit of an idle animation. You could probably do a better job, like maybe here, move this a little bit there, but just make sure that you always copy that, go to the end and paste it. And then here at 12, probably just move those hips down a little bit. Now when I press play, oh, it looks like my auto key wasn't on. Okay. Here's this. Copy that. Go here. Paste that. And we'll just move our hips up a little bit. Now when we press play, there we go. We got a weird idle. Good animation takes time. I'm really just kind of showing you how to block everything out. Now let's take a look at creating a very basic walk. So I'm going to go to create new clip here, and I'm just going to type in walk. And let's go ahead and save that. Now, off to the side here, I have this Richard Williams image, and I'll upload this to our LMS. But it just shows the basics of a walk cycle. So this is frame 1, this is 7, or no, this is 1, 4, 7, this is 10, and this is 12. I'll show you what I mean by that. This is the key poses, contact down, passing up, and contact that happen throughout a walk cycle. So on walk, what I want to do is just going to turn on my record here, and really what you're going to be mostly focusing on is playing with these targets here. So let's start with just the feet. So on frame 1, let's go ahead and grab that back leg, which is this one here. And let's hit W so we know where we're at. And I'm going to change it from local to global. And I'm going to move this back. And I'm going to move this forward. And I'm going to grab these hips and just move them down so we get a little bend in the knees. Now, it's always the alternate arm that goes with the alternate leg. So this leg, which is this forward leg here, and I'll kind of move that in just a little bit to get rid of the that bump showing. We just have that in there to help out. Let's move this back just a little bit more. And we don't want to animate the joint. We want to make sure we're always using these targets, which is easy to kind of flub up. Just keep moving. I'm just saying you don't want to use the ankles. You always want to move these targets around. We can kind of move that down just a little bit. Okay, so here's our pose 1. And we can actually grab these, and I'm going to hit E. I'm just copying this pose here. Rotate this foot. Oops. We're just getting that initial really nice pose. Same thing here. We'll grab this target, rotate it, rotate this, and then just make sure these hips are. So the alternate arm, and then you could, if you want to, I mean, it looks weird because his hands are down, but let's just say this is the way he walks. We could maybe add a little thing there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this entire pose by clicking here. And I'm going to go all the way to 1 second, which is, we're going to make sure that these samples are set to 24 too. And we're going to go to 1. I'm going to paste that. And then what I do next is, let's see. Let's go to frame 12. And I'm just going to do the alternate pose here. So I'm going to go down to this target here. And rotate this, hit W, move it back and down. This hip where it needs to be. Right. And then again, the alternate arm is now forward and this arm is back. And we're also getting this arm in front of the leg. See that? So let's see, that's the left arm and that's set to 4. And this really should be at almost 0. It should be behind the entire body. So that's a lot better. Yeah, because it looked like a little bit of a confusion going on. Let's go back to walk here for a second. Let's go to 12. And we could actually just kind of grab this joint here, rotate it back a little bit, making sure auto key is on so we get that locked in. Maybe show a little bit of that shoulder. Let's bring this arm up. And now we have this walk like this. And I don't necessarily like how low that is. So let's bring that up on 1 just a little bit more. Again, making sure that I hit Control C here, go all the way to the end, and making sure I paste that. If you don't do that, when we go to play this, it's going to pop when you get from the beginning to the end. All right, let's do this next pose, which is the down position. So we're going to go all the way to frame 4. And I'm really just going to look at this target here, and I'm going to zero out the Z-axis here. I'm also going to, gosh, I just kind of lose it there for a second. Back to 4, make sure auto key is on. And what I want to do here actually is I'm going to copy frame 1 and I'm just going to paste it on frame 4. Because what happens is we don't really move at this point. We just go down and our foot goes flat. So I'm going to select this target for this front foot. I want to make sure that the Z is zeroed out. And then also this joint here, if you recall, it is got some rotation on it. I want to remove that. And I wonder if I rotated this too. Yeah, it looks like I rotated the ankle bone. No, I guess I didn't. Let's see. This should be, let's see. And we want to go straight down. Let's kind of edit that so we're down. And let's make sure that this is rotated flat. This is also rotated flat. Here we are on 4. Foot flattens out. And we go down. See that? That's all you're doing is you're just moving your character down. You're flattening out that foot. And then as we start to go back on frame 7, which is our passing pose, we go up. And then this foot, which is sliding back. And actually what I tend to do is I'll just copy this. And then I'll paste that on frame 7. And what I do is I move this up. And then I grab that target. I position it right underneath my character, just like this position is. See how that leg is straight here? Position that right underneath my character. So it looks like our character's stepping up. This back foot here, make sure we grab the right target. Forward. Because we're passing here. Actually, we can leave it in the back. Let's rotate that a little bit. And it's hard, like these things being on top of each other. So it can be a bit frustrating. But as long as you have auto key on and you're kind of moving these paper cutout pieces, you'll be okay. It'll work itself out. It just takes a little bit of practice. See, like even there, I just broke the joint. And this arm too, like look at this arm. Really, this arm should be, oh, you know what? I think it keyed. Here, let's make sure unkey is there. And then we want to select that left arm. Make sure that's on 0 here. Yeah, because it was auto keyed. When we had the keying on, it also keyed this. See how this is red? So I want to find where that's keyed at inside of here. Right click and remove all keys. There we go. And let's just set this to 0. There we go. Okay, so we can move this arm back. Here's frame 7, and then we land here at 12. All right, let's do that on the other side. I'm just going to copy this pose here. Just going to go up a little bit here. I know this is getting a little long. Copy this, go all the way to frame 16. And if you're wondering where I'm getting these magical numbers from, as a first test pass, you always animate 3 frames ahead. So this is a frame. This is frame 1. If we add 3 to 1, we're at frame 4. 4 to 3 is 7. And then I didn't animate this pose here because I'm just trying to make this quick and that we'll get a really nice animation going. Here's 12. 12 plus 3 is 16. And 16 is the inverse of 4. That means it's the alternate side of this pose. So if I grab 12 here and I go to 16 and I paste it, what that helps me see is that it allows me to be like, okay, I can see frame 12 here. I know on frame 16, my character here goes down a little bit. Let's make sure we're on 16 here and that auto key is on. My character moves down a little bit. I know this foot goes flat. That. I know these toes go flat. And so that's that pose where a character goes down. Then I generally just copy this pose and then go over to 19, paste it again, and then I start to play with this. Move this up a little bit. Oh, let's go to 19 here. Turn on auto key. Move this up a little bit. And then do the same thing. We just kind of position that foot and then this foot here. Hip in. And now we have a walk cycle. Pretty cool. We have a walk, we have an idle. Make sure to save it. And that's really kind of the whole process of the rigged animation.